You mentioned earlier in the week, Coach Huseman, your goal was to create a few more explosive plays on offense. I wonder how you reached that goal.
Oh, just try to figure out how we can schematically, try to get some guys, whether it's in the passing game or in the running game, whether it's the perimeter running game, you game plan, each week. But ultimately, if you have something, a shot thrown deep, I mean, you got to win. Our wideouts got to win. Our quarterback's got to put it on him. And we had one against Virginia Tech probably come open. The other ones did not come open. We lost at the line of scrimmage, and so I mean, we got to win battles. We got to win one-on-one battles. Hopefully you win some 50-50 battles when the ball's up in the air. So there's a lot of different ways, but I think part of it is scheme, but part of it is execution.
If I could follow by asking you about Bo English and accommodations maybe that Richmond football has to make when you're dealing with a first-year law student as your quarterback in terms of time management and things like that. Can he be fully involved like every other player given his schedule?
Yeah, Wednesdays was the only day that it was an issue with him. He's been leaving practice early on Wednesdays, and we tried to get him snaps in previous to that, but today we actually changed the practice schedule around to give him almost everything, with all the teams and the individual and the skellies and things like that. So I think he had to leave 5 or 6 minutes before we ended any of the team activities. So Wednesdays has been the only issue right now.
Hey, if I could sneak one more in along the same line, I don't know if you know anything new and different about Joe Mancuso's injury. Conceivably, he could miss only one game with the Spiders being off next Saturday.
I doubt it. I mean, it's probably going to be more than that. And again, I don't know, the extent, how long it's going to be, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be more than that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, after Saturday's loss, the mood of, the couple of players that we got to see after the game was a little more upbeat than you might expect after a loss on the road like that. Has that optimism over how strongly they played an ACC team, has that kind of carried into this week's practice?
I think practice looks the same. Our Tuesday, Wednesday practices look the same. Our guys come out, they work hard. They, for the most part, they're all focused. I spend a lot of time down there with the defensive guys, and I just try to kind of eyeball and see how, how they look. And I mean, Tristan Wheeler is an all-conference, all-American. And when he comes out of the session and somebody goes in for him and team, I watch him, and he stands back there and not only pays attention, but you can see him visualizing and moving his steps along with the guy that's actually in there. And a lot of those guys do that. So they're taking mental reps. Sometimes when you're a good player, so I don't need mental reps. I'll come back here and BS with my buddies. But, for the most part, they do that. And offensively, again, normally Fridays I'll kind of peek down there, but I don't see a whole lot until I watch it on film. But, they're focused, and it was a pretty typical Tuesday, Wednesday.
How much different is this Elon team from the one that you all faced in the spring at all?
A lot different. They've got guys back. They got beat up with the injury bug in the spring, but it gave them an opportunity to play some younger guys, get some experience. And now they're getting some of the guys that didn't participate in the spring back. Obviously, the key one is Davis Cheek. makes a huge, huge difference in that football team. There's no question about that. So, yeah, they're a different team because of guys that did not get a chance to participate in the spring. I mean, good players. So they'll add good players into, onto what they did in the spring.
Hey, Coach, if we can go back to the explosive plays that John had asked you earlier, what is your definition of an explosive play in your offense? Is it anything more than 20 yards, 15 yards? What would
What
be
is
your
it, Bo? Passing, what is it? 20 yards on a throw, 15 on a run.
Okay. And can
You
you
like to see one or two of them 70 yarders, man. Those are sweet.
I think we all would like to see that.
Yeah, I know.
When you speak about Davis and you gave him the highest compliment earlier this week, what is it about him that makes Elon much, much different this year than last year?
Well, I think if you look immediately, and again, they're playing a couple freshman quarterbacks. They weren't as familiar with where to go with the ball. I think when you watch him on film, he knows exactly where he's going with the football, and he probably knows it pre-snap. But if he doesn't, it's pretty quick post-snap where he wants to go with it. He's got such an unbelievable release, quick release, strong arm.
Great. Bo, AJ, thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Bo, could you speak to how maybe your time management requirements change from undergrad to your first semester of law school here? And do you find it far more demanding in terms of getting things done?
It is very demanding. Not a huge change, but definitely a substantial change. I just had to stay regimented in everything I do. I try to early on in the school year, I try to come up with a weekly plan that I can just use going forward, and I just try to stick to that as tightly as I can. Utilizing my time wisely has been the most important thing, but it's actually not been too bad so far.
When we talked about this in February, you hadn't decided on a concentration in law. Do you have one now?
No, I still don't have one. One of the areas or two areas I'm interested in are immigration, employment law, but I'm still open. And I'll get more experience as I go along this thing. But those are the two I like so far.
Thank you.
Well, what made you?
Speaking of experience, how much experience was playing pretty much the entire game on Saturday? I mean, how much further are you with this offense after getting all those first team reps in live action on Saturday?
Saturday was definitely a good thing, both for me and the offense as a whole, just going against a quality opponent like that. And playing this week, getting all the first team reps this week in practice has also been big for me. But as far as the offense, I've been here a number of years, so I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what we're doing. And me and Coach Durden and I are always on the same page. So as far as the offense goes, I think we have a good grasp, but just the amount of reps I'm getting just helps with the execution and how smooth things run.
For both of you guys, the mood was decidedly more upbeat after Saturday's loss than it would be normally, just because I think there was a sense of pride in how well you guys handled yourselves against an ACC team. Do you guys both still feel that way today? And has that kind of, maybe enthusiasm is the wrong word, but is that pride carried over into this week? And how much more do you know about yourselves after standing up the way you did?
Yeah, I don't think like the team is happy with losing, but I think it made us hungrier in terms of like we see how elite we can be when we play well. Both sides of the ball, we're focused. Like if you pause some of the film, like from play 1 to play 40 or 60, even on the defense, offense, guys are in their stances. They're focused, and I think we, going back in film, we watched that. We know that we're on the brink of something. On the cusp of a great defense and great offense, just a great team in general. So I think we're just still like we know we're there, and we just need to show that from here on out in the season.
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with AJ. I'm not sure that we were happy with the result on Saturday. We definitely disappointed. We go into every game expecting to win, but we saw in that game that a lot of the things that happened were self-inflicted wounds that we can clean up ourselves. And going against a quality opponent like that, it was encouraging to see that we could play with those guys, and we really feel like we can play with anybody. So we were going to use a little bit of that momentum going forward.
Hey, Bo, if I can ask, what is it about law that made you decide that was what you wanted to do?
I've always just had an interest in the law. I'm not sure. I'm not really a numbers guy, and I love to read and write. So it's kind of just a good fit for me, and and reading cases and interpreting the law is just something I've always kind of been interested in, and I like to do it. So it's a good fit for me.
Hey, you said staying regiment this year with your schedule. Where does that come from? Who has instilled that in you to kind of stay regiment to what your plan is during a given week?
I actually feel like I've gotten that at a number of different places, especially in high school. I went to DeMatha Catholic, which is in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm from the Baltimore area, so that's about an hour away. So just making that drive every day and, having to play football and do my homework, without a huge chunk of time because of the commute, that I had to stay regiment with that. And then during my time at the Air Force Academy, balancing, the military, the academics, and the football, that was also a good experience for me, staying on a schedule. And then, undergrad here was, it's a rigorous academic institution. So, you got to do your homework, you got to go to class. So I just think all those experiences have helped me, for this year.
And if I could slide one more in for AJ. AJ, you faced Elon twice in the spring without Davis Cheek playing. Looking on film with this year's Elon group, how different or how much different is this Elon team as opposed to the one you saw twice in the spring?
So I didn't actually see them in the spring, just being here. I came here in the summer, but from film, the quarter, as you know, for most teams, their quarterback is, who they are, you feed off your quarterback, and the guy watching film versus spring when he wasn't there. Coach Huseman mentioned it, but it's the timing. As a DB, you rely on disrupting timing for quarterbacks because most guys at this level can throw and things they can catch, but you want to disrupt timing. But this guy does a really good job of, like Coach has said, getting the ball out, being really fast. So as a DB this week, especially coming out of breaks is important in trying to disrupt the timing as best as we can because they do a good job on their part of being crisp, being thorough in their routes and their and ball placement and things like that.
Hey, Bo, can you go back to Saturday and maybe recollect for us in that moment when you saw Joe, heading to the sideline, kind of what went through your mind and how you prepared for that moment?
Yeah, I was definitely, sad to see Joe go down, but, in that moment, that's, what backup quarterbacks, had to be ready for. So I felt prepared. I had a good grasp on the game plan going in. So I just tried to play in the moment. I wasn't sure how long Joe was going to be out, but my job was just gonna, keep the ship moving forward. Keep everything moving smoothly, and keep the offense going. So that's all I was focused on. I was just focused on moving the ball, and unfortunately Joe couldn't come back. So I did get a lot of good reps and a good experience in that game, which I think is going to be helpful moving forward.
So I think everyone in the stadium thought you're coming off the bench cold, you're going to hand the ball off on the first play, and you threw and completed on the first play. Can you kind of take me through that progression and how good that made you feel to be in the game and one play in, kind of got that first pass under your belt?
It was definitely, good to get it out the way early. I trust in the system, and I did what my read told me to do, and just because I'm a backup or this is my first play, I didn't want to just be safe. I just want to just be safe. I want to do things like how we would always do them, how Joe would have done it if he was in there. That's my job. Is we have a job to do. We have reads to make, and I'm going to make those reads just like anybody would in normal circumstances. So. I just made my read and made the throw, and I was glad to keep the offense moving. But that was a good feeling getting the first one out the way.
What's the next step in your progression with this offense now that you have that game under your belt?
This week, we're definitely looking to be a little more explosive. Try to push the ball down the field a little bit more than we did last week. But a lot of that last week, we goes back to us getting behind the chains. We were in a lot of third and long situations. And, as a coach, there's only so much you can call it for, third and 15 that's going to work. So, as far as, why we didn't do that last week, I think a lot of it was our execution on first and second down. And just, this week we had to stay on schedule, do a better job of that. And I think that will translate into doing a better job of pushing the ball down the field.
Thank you.
This question is for both of you guys. What has been the conversations like amongst the team about the importance of Saturday's game already with the conference laws and going into a bye before James Madison in 2 weeks?
I think we preach this every week during our team meetings on Sundays. It's every next game is the most important game of your life. So even in how we prepare, like it doesn't matter, if we go out and play like an ACC team, a CAA team, or like a Patriot League team. We prepare the same. We practice just as hard. We run the ball just as hard. And so, it's hard to change your mindset. Like if you have a bad mindset, usually change it for opponents. But I think this team does a good job of understanding that you want to win every game. We're focused on one game at a time, and you have to prepare each way because you can't decide to change it up midway through the season depending on your playing. You prepare hard each way, and I think this team does a good job of that.
Right, I agree with AJ. One thing Coach Huseman says is that, you know, every week we're playing a nameless, faceless opponent. So, you know, we can't worry about what they're doing. We have to prepare this the same way as we would every week. And that I think our team has been doing a great job of that. And we definitely, you know, realize the importance of this game, and every game is going to be crucial throughout the season.
For AJ, their passing game is really reliant on a pretty diverse group of receivers. They got a lot of guys that have been making plays, including out of the backfield and that sort of thing. Does that change your job at all when there's so much to kind of be keyed in on in defending the pass?
I would say not necessarily, because, you know, as a defensive guy, when you study an offense, you know, there's some focal points, and there's not so much a focal point because they spread the ball out well. But in any defense, you never want to give something up, you know, you never want to be weak in one area. So I think every week we go into thinking like we're trying to cover, in every route concept they have, we want to make sure all pieces are covered in every part of the game, because you don't want to let something go loose. So I think in that term, we're taking that to this step is like anybody can get the ball and make a play happen. So we want to cover it on all ends. And I think that's what, you know, as a defense, you try to do that every week. So I don't think there's a big mental change in terms of like, you know, some of the guys know they have check down or know they have the post, and they have to do that every week. We never want to give those things up. So I think it just continues to carry on.